All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. So big news. Vasyl Lomachenko has signed a fight contract for the George Kambosos fight, and it looks like it may be being held in June in Australia. Bad news is Devin Haney don't know what he's going to be doing in the lightweight division, if that is true. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. We're going to talk about the lightweight division and what seems to be a saga that is close to coming to the end, and that is, who will George Kambosos fight next for the Devin Haney fans, for the undisputed championship of the world in the lightweight division. Now, before I get into that specific issue, I want to welcome you back to the channel if you're a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you can get and select all notifications so that you can get the notifications of when we release more videos. All right, man. So undisputed title, man. It's a hard time for me to get that out of my mouth because the whole situation with Devin Haney and George Kambosos is so ganky. But regardless, technically speaking, it appears as if we now know, or leaning very heavily towards knowing, which way George Kambosos is going as far as who he's going to fight next. Was it going to be Devin Haney? Is it going to be Vasyl Lomachenko? In an off chance, will it be Gervonta Davis, or will it be some other person? Well, we know that the date for the fight is going to be in Australia, and it's supposed to be, I do believe, in June. Do not quote me on the specific date in June. I think it was June 5th. But regardless, a Sunday afternoon in early June for in Australia, so that it can be prime time in the United States. And so far, we know that Vasyl Lomachenko has actually signed his portion of a contract for the fight. Now, the only thing left in order to make the fight official is George Kambosos signing a contract. Now, this is another reason why, more than likely it's going to be Vasyl Lomachenko, is that there is a rematch clause for that fight to take place in Australia if George Kambosos should lose, which, let me tell you ahead of time, means that it is virtually assured of being a two-fight deal, because George Kambosos is not going to be beating anybody's Vasyl Lomachenko. Sorry, fella, he ain't getting out of there with that. What this pretty much means is that George Kambosos is going to get a two-fight deal with Lomachenko in a big auditorium in Australia, and it's going to be a two-fight deal. The only way that he is getting out of there with a win over Vasyl Lomachenko is if it is the biggest robbery in history, because George Kambosos is absolutely incapable, in my opinion, of beating Vasyl Lomachenko. Those are two radically different level fighters. And he is not going to get a Teofimo Lopez gassed out Teofimo Lopez off of a long layoff, looking for a knockout with every punch, all undisciplined and overestimating him. He's going to get a Vasyl Lomachenko that is a very hungry Vasyl Lomachenko, a very active Vasyl Lomachenko, a very skilled, very experienced Vasyl Lomachenko that is very used to fighting in places that are where he's from and where he's not from. He's fought matter of fact, all of his professional fights that I know of in the United States of America, and the man is from Ukraine. So him traveling overseas to go fight in Australia is going to mean absolutely nothing to him, except for maybe the size of the crowd, if it's a huge crowd, and maybe the judges' scorecards, if they are going to really try to, get him. But however, I don't see that happen. And I pretty much just see Vasyl Lomachenko walking through George Kambosos, and he very well may stop George Kambosos in that fight, unless Vasyl Lomachenko is over the hill. Maybe he gets old overnight, or older than he is already overnight, and the young 28-year-old cat can get him. But I just don't see it. I see this as pretty much the closest thing is to selling a belt as I can think of. And if I'm wrong, this will be the time for people to come on out, or this will be an opportunity for Aussie fans and fans of George Kambosos, all 12 of you in the United States, to tell me that I'm wrong. But sorry, I just think Lomachenko is just another level fighter until proven otherwise. Now, here's the thing too. What does this mean for the other people that were in the run-in to get this fight? First, let's talk about Gervonta Davis. For Gervonta Davis, it means absolutely nothing, because regardless, that WBA belt, if he wants that fight, whether it winds up being Vasyl Lomachenko or winds up being George Kambosos, the WBA is eventually going to order that fight, because they are under a mandate by the Association of Boxing Commissions to consolidate their belts, and they are going to consolidate that regular belt and that WBA super belt. And on top of that, it is a huge fight and the biggest fight that there could be made in the lightweight division, and they're not allergic to money, so they're going to push that fight. So for Gervonta Davis, he's pretty much just in the catbird seat, waiting to see what happens and waiting for a fight to be big enough to convince Floyd Mayweather Jr. that it's worth risking him to take that fight. That's where Gervonta Davis is. Where is Devin Haney in this particular instant? Devin Haney might as well be on a train to 140 pounds, from what I can see, because a 2-fight deal would push this for all of 2022 for George Kambosos or Vasyl Lomachenko, at which point in time, the mandatory for that WBA super, like I mentioned with Gervonta Davis, is going to pop up. If Vasyl Lomachenko wins this fight, like I think Vasyl Lomachenko will win the fight, then he is in the same position, Devin Haney, as he was when Vasyl Lomachenko was the WBC champion and Devin Haney was the interim champion. He's in the position of hoping that Bob Arum and Top Rank are going to give him that fight and give him an opportunity to win 4 belts. Not going to happen with Bob Arum. Before that happens, Shakur Stevenson would move up from 130 pounds after he gets done with his Oscar Valdez fight and fight Vasyl Lomachenko for that. He would get that fight as a WBO champion and a WBC unified champion, provided he beats Oscar Valdez, which I think he will. Move right in there and get that fight before Devin Haney gets that fight. Devin Haney then at 140 pounds, not sure what he's going to do at 140 pounds, because Top Rank also has those belts as well. So it seems to me as if he's caught up in a little bit of a situation with being with Matchroom when Matchroom's not doing business with Top Rank. And Top Rank could very well, within 4 months, hold all of the belts at 135 pounds and all of the belts at 140 pounds where he competes, which means there would be no big fights for him. And the closest thing that he would be able to get to is 147, and that is where the PBC is running things. So just kind of a tough situation for Devin Haney. Very unfortunate, though, however, that WBC with that franchise situation, that franchise belt situation, he can't force himself into a mandatory. But at 140 pounds, at least he can force himself into a mandatory. If he dropped that WBC belt and got into the rankings of the IBF or the WBA, he might be able to force himself into a mandatory situation. But as is, not sure that that's going to be the case. But anyway, that's my take on the situation. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.